Hi, I'm Shannon Moss, host of High School Quiz Show Maine. Over the past year, Maine Public's education team has been looking at how schools and students are transforming what their education looks like. More and more, they're creating connections between their communities, their classrooms, and their students' futures. Our team has put together 4 stories from across the state highlighting the ways these students are making an impact on their communities. Let's start in Newport, where education news producer Robbie Feinberg looked at how technology has changed the fabric of learning and how students have become teachers as well as learners.
Shop class at Sebasticook Valley Middle School in Newport, Maine looks a whole lot different than it did 15 years ago. Saws, drills, and wrenches still line the walls of Keith Kelly's classroom. But many of the tools have now been replaced with laptops, and those enable students to build skateboards, design a web page, and even create their own 3D printed inventions.
When I walked into this program, the fellow before me had been in industrial arts, so it was really wood-based, it was tool-based. We have businesses like that right up the road. We have Vic Firth that does drumsticks, we have kids that working in the woods, logging. So I didn't want to lose that program, so I'm integrating it with the technology that we have today.
So open up CS first or open up your Minecraft.
We do a lot of giving kids knowledge, right? So what I do is I take effort and knowledge and we apply it. This program's about applying knowledge. It's just not doing measurements for the measurement's sake or doing math for math's sake or science for science sake. It's we try to apply and do something with it.
More hands-on things makes me learn better. It makes me feel better knowing that I can know the way that it's made and how people make it, so that we're not just a consumer.
If you run into a problem in the future, it could help you figure out how to solve that problem.
I try to say, let's make it a learning experience. Instead of using your phone for just no reason, let's go and write the code to program the robots that we're going to do for Robot Wars. Or I have, drones or anything like that. It's applying that and not just being a consumer trying to go to that next level.
I think it's very important, especially since technology is going to be playing a bigger role than it is now later on in the future.
I want them not to think of it as coding or this technology is a separate thing, because it's all part of it. I mean, a lot of jobs are going to be automated. So I'm trying to say, look, you can be the guy that job disappears for you, or you can be the person that's actually making the code or creating the object.
Once these students reach high school, they meet Keith's brother, Kern Kelly. And Kelly works with them to become Tech Sherpas.
Hello and welcome to the Tech Sherpa Show, episode 74.
The Sherpas travel around the district, state, and even the country to answer questions and show schools how they can use technology in new ways.
Every week or so, we would do a live tech help show and basically support teachers from all over the world. Teachers will ask us, like, how do you do this thing? And so my students will kind of study it during the week, and the following week create a live tutorial on how to do that topic. It's a win-win. The teachers obviously get something from it because they're getting help and they're getting just-in-time support. The students get a lot out of it because they're presenting, right? They're learning how to be professional, how to be responsible, all these things we want these kids to do, and they have to do it.
Inside the high school, each student has a different kind of technology-related project. Some edit videos, some engineer new products, or experiment with aerial drones.
Whatever technologies are coming down that we think is interesting and worthwhile to spend our time on. Some of the great projects we're doing right now, our district is lucky enough to get a new school on the list from the state next couple of years, so 2018. We actually have a drone class that we're working with students doing aerial photography and videography. And so our kids are going to be doing aerial drone footage of the location of where that new school will be being built. And then as the construction comes in and build that stuff, we'll show over time, the next couple of years, how that changes. Well, what's going to happen at that point is we'll have a new school building being built. That means that our old school eventually will be torn down. Now this school in the Nokomis Regional High has been around for 60 plus years, so there's a lot of history there. And so one of our students, their project is they're going around room to room and they're taking 360-degree pictures of every single classroom, and we'll make an interactive map that, eventually kids that have gone to the school can show their grandkids, hey, that was my gym. And we're doing it so they can look at the VR glasses, the 360 VR glasses, and actually see their classrooms as it was today.
The mission is for students to find problems and design their own unique solutions.
I just like how you can make it from this spool of nothing into a giant creation of anything. that you want.
And so 3D printing, of course, is a cool, super cool thing. And our big thing with that is getting beyond that first initial, like let's print out a phone case or that kind of stuff. Let's actually do stuff that's real. And so we very much turn our kids into problem solvers to problem finders. And we go find things that need to be fixed. And so our rule of thumb is create something for us and then create something for you. And so they go find something that needs to be fixed, they work on that project, they prototype it. Right now, one of our students is working on a project that they want to take a mirror hanger system for webcams. And so you have the laptop that has a webcam built into it, that they can put a mirror system on top of that to basically turn it the other way and turn that into a working camera. And that will be very functional. Once it's completed, we'll be able to use that all of certainly our district as well as statewide.
Stuff, so it's like you're walking down and then...
Kelly hopes that through this technology, these young adults can develop an entrepreneurial mindset to help them stand out in college and the workforce.
I really like it. I started out wanting to take like business classes, I wanted to be an accountant, and so I really found that wasn't for me. I'm very extroverted. I like to be out with people. So this I really is a class of opportunity of, if I want to go into PR, which is what I'm really looking into, is I can take that as far as I want to go in here and expand on what I want my future to look like.
My learning style is hands-on, and in other classes we do auditory and visual learning, which I'm not good at. So I can come in here and I can do stuff, use my hands, be able to, if there's a problem, I can figure it out by doing it instead of just watching someone else do it to try learning how. So I find this a lot more interesting than all the other classes.
It determines my future, and I feel like that's something that has helped me decide on the path I wanted to go. I didn't want to, I wasn't even thinking about the broadcasting field until I came here, and it's crazy to think that now that's what I'm going into next year. It's pretty fun.
Kelly says much of this tech innovation across the district wouldn't be possible without the Maine Learning Technology Initiative, which gives devices to every 7th and 8th grader in the state.
And when you have that, when you're not scrambling every day to find machines to do work, as a teacher, it changes what you can do. It means that, okay, I can reliably have these machines, I can use them, that means I'm going to be able to go do this project, or I'm going to be able to connect to this author somewhere around the world, or I'll be able to do these things I just knew I couldn't do before.
Kelly says with these devices in hand, students from this isolated rural district can now learn and share ideas with the rest of the world.
Well, Robbie is here with us now, and also we are joined by Dave Boardman, Maine Public's Education Program Coordinator. And Dave, you're also a full-time career and technical education teacher as well, right?
That's right. I teach the Mass Media Communications program at Mid-Maine Technical Center in Waterville.
Well, it is great to have both of you here, and oh my gosh, that video learning looks a whole lot different than when a lot of adults went to school, right?
Yeah, and what's really cool about it is that this isn't all that unique in Maine. When the governor back then, Angus King, he first kind of created this program. The whole idea was of creating programs like that. It was the idea of a teacher not necessarily just having to lecture kids, but to basically be able to give kids these problems, and then they can use their computers to solve them and really, find those critical thinking skills.
And that's really a hallmark of student-centered education, where students are finding challenges, exploring them, and then coming up with solutions. One place we see that are in the state's career and technical education centers.
And Robbie, you headed to the United Technology Center in Bangor, and you got to see this change up close, right?
Yeah, it's really cool stuff up there.
All right, well, let's take a look.
20 years ago, Hope Thomas and Sam Eaton might never have met each other at this school. Hope likes robotics, so she may have spent all her time here at a computer learning to code. Sam, meanwhile, wants to work in video, so she may have just spent her whole day at the school's media lab. For years, this was the structure of career and technical education, better known as trade school. You learned your craft, like how to weld, or how to build a car. But at the United Technology Center in Bangor, that idea of students learning just one single skill has been flipped on its head.
Okay, so today at this meeting I wanted to talk about where we're all at with the car.
Mr. Dyer has been coming back and forth with us students, putting on different pieces and parts and stuff that we're also fixing over at the shop.
Now, students like Hope Thomas and Sam Eaton come together from across disciplines in a classroom that resembles something more like a business. And instead of just learning one skill, Hope and Sam have spent the last school year leading a team of roughly a dozen students, on a big project to restore a rusted Model T car and eventually get it running.
It was donated to the school by an old board member, and he's had this thing for about 20 years, and he couldn't get the chance to refurbish it, so he gave it to us.
Sam and Hope say this was a huge challenge. Both had no automotive experience at all. But they say the key was learning how to manage other students and community members who did understand those skills.
Whenever we have a new project come into the school that requires an interdisciplinary team, we assign a student to become a project manager. And that project manager then goes out and hires, quote unquote, project specialists in the different program areas. And then they coordinate and collaborate with those students to bring the project to completion. They pull the team together, they manage it all, they develop their own spreadsheets. They're not getting graded on this. This is above and beyond the work that they do every day in their regular programs. They're doing this just because they want to do it and because, you know, of the experience and the ability to put this on their resume and to show the world really what they're capable of.
The students dart across the technical school to show the magnitude of this project. It involves working on carpentry, welding, auto body refinishing.
This looks so much better than it did when we first got it. These fenders were all beaten up, the metal was rusty, it didn't look put together at all. There was just debris and grime and filth everywhere, but proud mom moment right here, this is amazing.
And now, 8 months after they've begun, that old rusty Model T actually starts.
Try it again.
When we first heard it start up yesterday, we were so happy. I almost shed a tear.
Yeah.
Like to see all of the hard work that you pour into it in 8 months.
Yeah.
We spent 8 months of our lives on that thing and it finally started running.
And the team of kids who worked on this say it brought some real-life accountability into school, which is rare.
I had like these two watching and overseeing the project. Felt a lot of responsibility to get it done on time so we can get it bounced around different departments.
Managing a whole project with like 12 people, that would have been scary to me a year ago, but now I have confidence in my abilities and I say, I know I can do this and I know that I can bring about a really, really good result, and it makes me really happy.
The enthusiasm the students have for this, the ownership, because we try to make them and put them in charge as much as possible of their own learning. We're certainly watching and we're there to assist when necessary. But we want this to be theirs.
We have this experience and we can go to jobs and say, hey, I was a project manager and I can show you this entire portfolio that we made and put together, and you can actually put it on like your resume or stuff like that and just show that you have done this and you have the skills to work in and to be like someone in leadership and management.
The center's director, Greg Miller, says that as jobs transform across the country, some skills will become obsolete. But problem solving, critical thinking, communication, those, he says, will always be needed. For Maine Public, I'm Robbie Feinberg.
Proud mom. Yeah, very, very proud mom.
What a fantastic story. You know what it's interesting though, is you don't hear a lot of the traditional reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Those skills are of course very important, but the other skills, the soft skills, the ability for students to communicate, to innovate, to collaborate, those are skills that whether students go on to college immediately or later or right into the workforce, they'll need those skills for a long time.
Yeah, and what's really noticeable when you go to these places is how they integrate things like math and English, where they're in the context of these kinds of hands-on projects. So it's like taking math and blending it with cooking, or taking English and using it, well, I don't know, woodworking, but you know, combining things that way. And what's been really noticeable is that this stuff really works, where if you look at the research, CTE students oftentimes end up with, you know, they get better grades and they end up with better paying jobs after college.
Well, this work-based approach, you're seeing it also starting as early as middle school, Robbie?
Yeah. So there's this school that I headed to. It's called the Harpswell Coastal Academy. And they do a really fascinating approach where basically from as early as 6th grade, these kids are doing things like running restaurants and, you know, helping to build a farm.
Unbelievable. Well, we got to take a look at this story. Watch everyone.
In the town of Harpswell, fishing is still a way of life. Every summer, fishermen have flowed in and out of the Cundy's Harbor Wharf with lobster, cod, and shellfish. Generations of Harpswell residents have picked up the trade from their mothers and fathers. Joe Grady watches those boats from his farm overlooking Harpswell's Mill Cove.
Come on, Nula!
Grady left teaching to build this farm, yet 5 years ago, he and others in Harpswell began to see something change in the community's kids. Less engagement in school and more leaving the community.
I think when school is disconnected from your everyday life in that way, it's hard to make those connections, and I think a lot of kids struggle to make those connections. You know, there's this idea that we want to create things in these communities that kids are excited to be a part of. That's how they stay here as adults.
Grady says residents began to ask this question: how do you get students to stay as adults?
That's a really cool design idea, especially it can be hard to hoist a big thing of compost over the edge.
The solution was this place, the Harpswell Coastal Academy Charter School, based around the idea of something called work-based learning.
So at our school, in order for students to pass on, we track two things. Their content standards and what we call HOWLs, your habits of work and learning. And those cover skills that employers consistently tell us are the most important things they're looking for in employees. Perseverance, the ability to revise work, the ability to show up on time, taking initiative in your learning.
Kids first learn those skills through projects like this one, where students like Easton Dundor are actually designing a farm themselves.
So this project is mostly for like team building and career development and communication. You get to work with other people and you get to like see if you like that, you see if you don't, and it's just a really good opportunity, I think, before starting a job.
It might seem a little strange to hear a 6th grader talk about starting a job, but Dundor says he's learned a lot out here about teamwork and communication.
I feel like it's good hands-on work, which I feel like that connects to my brain and it helps me learn better. I think if I was inside writing papers about career development, it would almost be a little less effective.
Is it just pepperoni? Yes, this is just pepperoni.
At our school, our students help serve lunch. They take turns cleaning up the lunchroom, taking out the trash, yes, cleaning the bathrooms. But this program is expanding so that we hope that within a couple years, every student at HCA will have a job that they apply for. So that when they leave, we can say in good conscience, one, this kid has a better idea of what they want to do as a career, but we can also serve as a reference for that student and say, yes, I've seen that kid put in 20 hours of work filing papers, configuring iPads, preparing, tossed salad, and fixing drywall, and we know that they're ready to be a worker.
It looks really yummy.
And once these students reach high school, they're required to apply these skills outside the school's walls, at places like this, the New Beat Market. They start with basic tasks, dishwashing and clearing tables. But for some students, like senior Carly Clark, that work has evolved into designing menus and spreadsheets.
I was pricing out the menu, so going in ingredient by ingredient, finding out how much that one ingredient is and then how much of it we use for certain recipes, and then pricing out the recipes so that it suits the 70 or 80 students depending on which time of year.
We had her build databases, we had her build spreadsheets, we had her build, I had her build essentially complicated spreadsheets that give a price based on a database of our ingredients by the way they're used in a recipe. So we had her build all those things. I don't know how many high school kids that do that before going off to college or wherever it's going to take them.
Experts are intrigued by this model, and particularly these partnerships. But they also caution that these jobs shouldn't just be manual labor. They need to be connected to academics, with students reflecting on their work. Staff say that connection hasn't been perfect in the past, but they're working to strengthen it. And owner Jamie Pacheco says she's found that not all students can handle the workplace. Some haven't made it through the year.
They are responsible for their place within the team because in order for us to get anything done, everybody has to fulfill their obligation within the workplace. It can be very interesting or challenging trying to teach somebody that role.
But there's a larger goal here besides simply making food. The school hopes that by exposing its students to the community, they can connect more strongly with their town and maybe stay here and start a business of their own.
There's a lot of different ways people are going to learn to live and work, but if they come out of school feeling like there's something that they're either really good at or that they're really interested in and that they can get paid to do, we've sort of done our job.
A lot of times kids grow up and they think that there's one path for them, and that's either because of teachers or parents or even their peers, but it's good to learn in a community where you have that opportunity to explore a lot of different things.
And Clark hopes to keep exploring. She says she's planning to leave Maine after high school, but she says eventually she wants to come back. For Maine Public, I'm Robbie Feinberg.
It's just this really great stuff that's happening in the state of Maine, and it's so good to see. But do we know about the success long term, or is it just too early to tell for these programs?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of it, especially with a program like this one at Harpswell, where it's only, I think, about 5 years old at this point, so it's really tough to judge one way or another. Right. But the way that the school, anyway, is trying to judge this is they're looking at what their students are doing down the road. So that could be college, but it also could be, you know, getting a great job at a local business, or it could be starting up a local business themselves.
Right, entrepreneur.
Right.
We look for the same thing in career and technical education. It matters, of course, what students are doing today in their classroom, but also where they go, what kind of challenges they take on in the future.
Well, we've got some exciting things going on in Portland as well, right? So we want to head there now. Our Maine Education Project team went there this summer to see a program that is a whole lot different from your normal summer job.
Gateway to Opportunity is a summer youth employment program that works with low-income or at-risk youth within the Portland Public Schools.
Over 40 young people from the Portland area divided up onto different project teams.
Which could be anything from designing and developing a summer literacy program for younger youth, or creating a media video to bring awareness to foster care youth and resources that are provided within Portland.
I mean, it all depends how you want to use it.
I think the skills that employers express they're really looking for are what we're calling these 21st century skills. So it's about how to work in a team, how to collaborate, how to problem solve as a group.
We want it to be hands-on, learning how to work while actually working and being paid to work.
While working with my team, I've definitely gotten better at communicating with them.
It just gives me good job skills. It gave me a lot of experience.
We pay them for their time, so they get money for being here, minimum wage in Portland. They get to be exposed to high-level jobs, you know, coordinating time management, project management.
So like the book donation, we can just talk about what we did.
Yeah, like the process and stuff.
What we're seeing with our program design is that there's, in some ways, a mismatch between employer demand, the types of jobs that they have, what they're looking for, and the skills that young people are being exposed to. So this program is really designed to bridge that gap.
Just go ahead and hit expanded focus again.
There are also USM undergraduates and very recent graduates who are serving in this role that we call team leader. And that's a near peer learning model. So it's high school students being supervised by a college student who may just be a couple years older than them. And so we also see this model as a way to develop the skills of the college students as well, give them exposure, give them an opportunity to really take on leadership within the team.
It's always amazing to see young people grow and come out of their shell in such a small amount of time.
This program is really innovative and it's unique in the state of Maine. So we're just really excited about it. We've seen great outcomes from our pilot last year, doubled in size for year 2. So we're still piloting and learning and figuring out how to adjust the model so that it can really start to scale and then be brought to new communities throughout the state.
Truly incredible. Robbie, Dave, after going into these schools, seeing these kind of programs so unique, what is your takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm left thinking about after I've been in all these different places, it's actually, I guess, kind of the history of schools in Maine, where in so many of these rural towns that we've seen, these schools have served really as the center of these communities and kind of the lifeblood in a lot of ways. And even today, a lot of them are just filling needs as simple as, you know, feeding kids and giving them things that way. But in this way, what a lot of we're seeing now is kind of the evolution of that, where it's these communities recognizing that there's a need, whether that's, you know, the workforce or that these kids need job skills, and these schools are finding ways to really fill that need.
Right. Dave?
What strikes me is that programs like these really give students a chance to use their voice, to find a relevance in what they're doing in school, and to make connections with the community where they live and places they care about. And that means long term, these students will be very engaged in what they're doing. And as a result, their skills will just move higher and higher.
Yeah, well, I think there's nothing more powerful in education than an engaged student, right? When you've got that,
absolutely.
You've got everything.
Absolutely.
All right, Robbie, Dave, thank you so much for joining us and bringing us those incredible stories from amazing programs across Maine. Love to see that. And please look for more stories about learning in Maine on Maine Public Radio and on the Maine Education Project. That is at mainepublic.org.